Alrighty.
I'd be watching your back, but be careful.
Okay, let's get this started.
The payload moves in accordance.
Alright, so first thing positioning wise is you need to figure out where you're rolling out as McCree, right? So you've got a Widow. Widow's going to take the long sight lines typically. She's going to play high ground. She's going to emphasize like playing this part of the map generally. Like this flank is just not a thing for Widow, right? This flank is like okay. So as McCree, what you want to do generally is go the opposite path of what you expect your Widow to do. And so that means, generally speaking, on this map in this situation, it probably means coming up to this high ground, right? And if you just decide not to do anything with this high ground, that's fine, right? If your Widow turns out she wants to play this angle, you just drop and then chill, because that's what high grounds do. But if you're not sure, like go high ground, right? Go high ground, and then from here you can decide whether you want to roll into this room, right, and play this angle, or you just kind of like sit out here, right? If you're going to play low ground, you can flank, right? You can go underneath. People generally actually don't look for this very often if you do this early enough. And that might get you like into the map when they're not expecting it, and then go for a flank. Or alternatively, like as soon as you get to the choke, you just roll over here, play this side right here, and work to get underneath them, or like up this ramp, or around the side, depending on like what your Widow's doing, what the enemy team's doing, right? But like main is never the answer, because it sucks. Like what can you shoot from here? Like a Sig, and a Orisa shield, right? And then you're exposed to a lot of things, and you get pulled like when you're trying to pull your team, right? Like just a lot of like negative things that happen. Where are you? There you are. Like you're actually check to the tracer. You just like went up there, right? She'd be actually be way more scared because you have flash at close range. Whereas because she's in the high ground, she gets to dictate when the fight actually happens. So you don't actually know when she's coming out. You need to constantly look up there as opposed to just like waiting here for her and shooting the shield. Alright, so quick thing, if your Widow is scoping in on the sleeping tracer, leave it to the Widow, right? Like, using your roll and your flashbang puts you way out of position for the fight, and again, like, your Widow's got it, like, you don't have to get the kill. Second is, likewise, you guys are stacking the same angle. So before this roll happens, before the sleep even happens, when the tracer comes out, do you see what happens? We're like, now you and the Widow are again playing roughly the same angle, right? You guys are all together, right? And so again, like as soon as you like the tracer's been dealt with, like you need to book it either up this ramp or around the side, right? Your goal is to like set up for a flank. Around the side is almost always better, right? You can set up either cut off reinforcements and shoot them in the back, or you just go up the stairs, play the high ground above them, and that way you can still get healing from your supports who are likely going to be playing up here in a couple seconds, right? So you just play up here, you're fine. You shoot them from above. You can like get an easy flashbang flank. But you do need to start roaming a bit because, like, again, you're the short range DPS. That means you play the shorter angles, the more aggressive angles, the flanking angles, and you let the Widow play the standard strong angles. So now it just takes you a lot of time to get back in position, and what's the end result is you and Widow. It's good that you're taking this high ground. It's good that you saved roll going up here, but just watch out. They're banning a little too much. Again, like as soon as you settle here, you've got to like figure out what to do, right? So, I think Brian got pulled along with you earlier, off the high ground. Did he actually not get pulled off, or did you just walk up there?
My barrier destroyed!
There's a pull. Oh, you didn't get pulled. Okay, well either way, like once you get pulled, once you've done your thing on the low ground, right? You want to like just like you shoot, and then you go back, and now you're back on the high ground, right? Where's your Widow? Your Widow's playing this angle. Ideally, your Widow should start flanking now because you've taken the standard angle, right? Because again, like it goes both ways, right? So if you end up like being forced to play a normal angle, right, the standard high ground shot angle for your hit scan, then your Widow should start flanking, right? Because she can see that and she knows that there's not a lot of places you can go from here, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But you should like get here ASAP because you don't do anything from low ground. Like it's just kind of hard. I mean, you can still do things from low ground, but it's not nearly as good. So once you've like committed to it, this is really aggressive, by the way. Rolling in for the flashbang in front of the enemy team, right? That's a McCree, by the way. Is he looking? I think. Oh yeah, he moved backwards. Okay, that's a McCree and a Zen and a Nurser. These are 3 people that can shoot and they have Discord. Like in theory, you should just die here. But you don't. Which is the only reason why this flashbang is like gets any value, right? In reality, like zero damage. Yeah, but like by now, you should have already backed to high ground, right? By being on high ground, you can help defend them. And again, instead of trying to force aggressive value through flashbang, you just sit and camp your supports while shooting. And now the Tracer just has the flashbang as a check now, as opposed to like just trying to force the flashbang value, right? You just get guaranteed value by the fact that you're zoning with it.
I'm on fire.
Okay, so it's cool that you're trying to shoot the Tracer, but like while this is going on, you want to just like start walking this way, right? Go get up here and get in this position, right? And this way, the Tracer can never get to you, right? She has to go up that ramp to get to you. You stop the Tracer from contesting because you can shoot her. And if like they try to contest, you're now positioned for like to use your high noon and also just like shoot, right? This is the strong position, right? You don't want to be on cart when the recontest happens, and if the Tracer stalls for long enough, you'll be squarely in the middle of it all, right? So like while you're shooting the Tracer, just start rotating, right? Go back to high ground and then start going back as soon as you cap.
The payload has
All better. My ultimate's almost ready.
All right, so if you just think about the map, right? What are the standard long angles? Pretty much anything on this side, right? So what's the standard short angle? You just start flanking, right? You just start flanking, go up the stairs, and then you start poking at that door when they come out, right? Or like just chilling here and waiting for things to happen and seeing if anyone tries to flank underneath you, and then you just catch them out with flashbang, right? Alternatively, you don't really have the time because like so if you'd capped in a situation where you're up here, right? If you're up here and you cap, then like the most logical place to go immediately is like right side, right? You take right side, and then you can start playing like these outside areas, shooting this guy. You can play the sign for healing, and then like you can drop. There's a mega underneath you. There's stairs on your right, and you can get really aggressive depending on like what the enemy team's doing. But like again, just play the side of the map you're on for the most part, and just like really aggressively take off angles because your character like kind of has to when you have a widow. Like don't die for it, obviously. Anytime you died, it probably wasn't the best off angle, or you didn't like react fast enough to what they were doing to like respond to you. But you do need to take off angles because if you just play the center angle, like you just kind of don't contribute as much.
Activating the barrier.
So this is not a real off angle, right? So it's kind of an off angle only if the fight. Oh, whoops. Only if the fight happens like right here, right? That's the only time this is a real off angle. And you might still get might still get pushed from the flank. You have a stick in front of you, which is good. But like this is like a real off angle if you're up here, right, somewhere. Obviously don't like walk up and then just die to them, but like you get the idea. So if you and your sig pushed up this off angle and started shooting these guys might get antsy, and then you have these rocks as cover. You can get healed from the low ground, like they can shoot your feet. Your Ana can shoot your feet. Or as your sig's pushing that, you can back up to here, play this spot. And again, if your Ana's playing this spot, which is very normal, not in this scenario, but she can play here. She can heal you, right? And it just makes a lot more sense than you playing here with the sig, right?
I need a doctor.
Like if you look at all you can, like as McCree, you kind of just don't like shooting shields. You just don't do enough DPS. Your hitbox is kind of squishy, or not, your hitbox is rather large, and it's just not a lot of fun. So what you like to do is you just like to go around the shields and shoot people, right? And then you threaten, and they try to go at you, you kill them with flashbang, or you threaten them with flashbang, right? So that's again like if you're over here, right? Like maybe you don't necessarily shoot maybe like sure this is like a more like dangerous angle. Obviously you'd prefer to be preset like over here, and then you can make plays from there. But if you're here, right? You come out, you can shoot that McCree, you can take trades, right? And then you can just roll backward and grab the mega if you get low, right? But like this is the kind of the concept, right? It's like like if you're on the sides, or like if you're hanging out over here, right? You might be able to catch a tracer flank. You might just kill the Zen if he rotates out slowly across the boards, right? He just walks out, right? You can actually shoot people that aren't the shields, right? So again, this is why you want to take off angles.
Get in here.
Yeah, so your widow's on your right, so that means you want to go left.
Let them out.
So in an ideal world, you guys do that, but you guys do that from like here, right? So like you guys just like have a shield set up, you're just poking, and then like you're all on high ground except for like maybe your I don't know, your hog, I guess. So you, Sig, Bap are on high ground, and then when like they try to walk up to fight you, you just window and they all die, right? It's the same concept. It's just you can do that from high ground, right? You don't have to be low ground for this to enable this play. Alright, again, you need to take high ground right now. I know you're the only one on cart, but you should be asking someone to swap with you. In the absence of that, you can walk cart for a bit. Okay, so Juan is here. You're asking to cart, and you go take high ground. No. I believe that was your
No one
that
can
shot.
hide from my sight.
Activating the barrier.
Yeah, you're just like constantly on cart, and if like they were playing like dive or just like more aggressively or like had a brig, like you would just be super sad on cart right now if they just like dive bomb cart. But this team is really struggling to get out of spawn, so
The payload.
yeah, like make sure you use the time to take positioning, let your supports walk the cart while it's safe. We talked a lot in VOD review about how the SIG should be up here, right? So what's even better than a SIG up here is a SIG and a McCree up here, right? Yeah, so that way, like your Widow gets to play the long angles, right, over here and around here, and you get to play the more aggressive like flanking angle, right? Like imagine if you were just here, like you and the SIG were up here, this Widow would never be able to play here, right? You gotta resist the urge to pan shield a little bit. Like a SIG shield is a permanent. Be careful crossing that. You didn't exactly look to see where the Widow was, so you didn't actually know if she were in her sight lines.
Excuse me.
Okay, so once you get here, right, like you're in a good position, just keep going, get to high ground, right? There's no Widow, there's no punish anymore, so now you can just like stand up here. As long as you don't get shot to death by the SIG, like you can just like shoot whoever you want. Feels really good. I'm sure you know why.
Tonight, keep your eyes. Barrier, unstable.
Are you crouching on like every shot? Hang on, let me go back. You are crouching on every shot. Interesting. I mean, it's good against Widow, but like, careful doing that against. Well, not careful, but like, interesting. I mean, it's not inherently bad if it's not messing you up, messing your aim up, but you know, it's a little predictable. Oh my god. When the window comes out, expect the pull, right? So don't play anywhere near the corner. Just start walking away from the corner. This is something you needed, like a habit that's really hard to develop, because it just feels really unnatural in Overwatch for a long time. Is when you're against Ashe or when you're against Orisa, playing next to corners is actually really dangerous, right? So you can like play next to them briefly for cover, but when you expect the dynamite or when you expect the pull, like you just sort of need to develop a sense for when they're about to come. You need to like move away from the corner because getting dynamited or getting pulled sucks. Like really sucks, right? So.
Get in here!
No one can hide from my sight.
A lot of time in this tracer. Like you either go hunting on this tracer, right? You either just like start like just walking over here and seeing if you can catch her by surprise, right? Or you just ignore her, right? Because like your Widow's staring at her in the face right now, and they're 1v1ing at the end of the day, and you don't do anything unless the tracer actually commits, right? So you might as well just start rotating and taking like a flank or something. Like you can even like I don't know, climb this box or something and just run to your right and see if like you can like do something, make a play on the right side or something, like as while flanking or just like chilling up here. This is really risky. Obviously, don't probably shouldn't do that, but like I mean you can still go left. There's a lot of things you can do, but the point is like just like looking for the tracer 24/7 like is probably not the answer. You spent more time looking at this tracer than like actually shooting. Tracer still gets away scot-free, right? That's like a lot of missed pressure.
Not as good as you.
Oh, careful. Okay, so you know where the widow is roughly, right? So if you see your widow die here from like all the way down range, right? There's like she's somewhere on this track on the semi. You don't know exactly where she is, right? But like you know she's roughly here, so be really careful peeking main because you know she's there, right? Again, this is why it's also important to take this position earlier with like one of your off tanks, so you can just sit here and chill if we're losing, right? If your widow dies, you can just back up, play a really conservative angle, and then wait for someone to walk into you with your off tank, right? But you can't do that. You can't cross now because your widow's dead and their widow's up. So
Like, if I could make this, we should get the payload moving.
if you really need a cross, you just ask your Sig to come around with you, and then he shields the cross, and then you just run through left, right? But it can be really rough.
Tonight, keep your eyes free. How about a little
That's a bad roll flash. You're just relying too much on flash to like carry your values McCree instead of just playing the character. So it's worth noting that you also saw the fortify, and fortify is way longer duration than like what you probably think it is, based on this roll flash. So you just gotta chill, right? Play your hero, play your strong positions, right? Make them come to you, right? Because you're a mid-range hit scan, and this tracer has to come to your team to do something, right? Yeah, you can just kind of chill and you can just shoot them, right? You don't need to like force flashbangs all the time. Like you kind of play it like a double sniper, except you just play slightly more aggressive, slightly more flanky angles because you have flashbang. That's it, really. Because you're still like a poke-based DPS character, right? You're not a close range. You're not like a Reaper. You don't like run into them.
back into the mix. What is that melody?
Probably a good one. High ground. High ground spot. She'll probably play a defensive angle, right? She'll probably be somewhere around here, if I had to guess. Or she could be dead. I don't know where she is. Where's your widow? Am I blind? Oh, she's up here. Yeah, okay. She's playing like a standard like defensive high ground angle. So you want to play like the close angle, right? And you can play those as your supports. You can bodyguard them. You also serve as a buffer for your widow because it takes an extreme flank to get there. For your tracer, for their tracer if she's not going through this side, right? Yeah. You can also potentially play the right side, but it's just generally not as good because you'll need protection on this side and a support pocket from the other side. So it's just kind of not as good. You kind of just want to play like this top left. But you just need to start rotating pretty much as soon as you can, as soon as you get these kills. Alright, so that's good, you got the kill, but again, like, you gotta get to the next step, right? So your supports are like rotating like really intelligently, and your widow's still playing a strong angle, right? So now you just need to like mirror that movement, right? You just need to like go up there with your supports, bodyguard them, right? Take the strong position, right? And as the fight develops, right, and your off tanks like push one side or another, then you can consider flanking, right? Like pushing your off angle, right? So you might drop and just like go spawn camping, right? But initially you need to play like don't peek the window, right? Like if you want to push, right? You either wait it out and do nothing, right? Which is totally okay. Or you just like push all the way around and try and flank, right? Like Juan's currently doing, right? And try and salvage this fight that way. You don't solve the fight by peeking the window.
Well.
Alright, again, this is the wrong spot to be. You want to be like, especially since they have a Hanzo, you can fairly reliably cross safely, especially if you just ask one of your off tanks to cover you, right? You can also cross from this side as well, make it even safer, like the Hanzo arrows are super inaccurate at this range. Just cross, get over on this side of the map, right? Again, because like we want to emphasize this side of the map, unless we're hard flanking on the right side of the map, right? So this side of the map just gets us stuck on low ground. Right? So, we don't want to be here anymore. Alright, so we decided to hard flank. I like this.
No one can hide from my sight.
Alright, so this is too early and also the wrong target, right? So if you're going for this flank, you don't have a lot of retreat paths, right? Like if you anywhere you go is an LOS of them, they can cut you off and like potentially kill you, right? Like you have a mini for sustain, but you're relying a lot on them not playing well around this flank, which is like viable, but not really what you're aiming for here. So what you want to do is you want to wait until your team commits, right? And then you just kind of walk in, right, behind them and just go for like a flash kill, right? And you can do that because they're not paying attention. No one even looked at this side, right? So this is your opportunity to go for a free flank instead of shooting, right? Just like this is when you want to go for the hard flanks, right? The flash, force the flash value, right? Or like go over here, line up 2 headshots on the Ana, and just kill her, right? Because you can do that from this range if she's scoping and standing still, right? This is really poor positioning for the support, so this is a lot of freebies, right? The only time this coming out here isn't a hard flank is when you don't have semi control, right? You just come out and there's supports on top and you just start shooting at them, right, and forcing them out. And then like your supports like meet them on the mega with like anti-nade and or maybe you're like you have a tracer that meets them there or you have a widow, right? That's when this becomes like value. That's just like a basic like off angle. But because the supports are so poorly positioned, this now becomes just like a hard flank. It's just a freebie flank. But you gotta take it. Oh my god, it's subtle. Oh, I can't believe you lived. Yeah, there's something to be said about standing here in front of their whole team shooting a bongo. Let's see what that looks like from the outside.
Personne n'échappe à mon
So then you shoot the McCree, you shoot the SIG, so now they know where you are, right? And then you jump out and you're like, I'm gonna kill this bongo. The only reason you lived initially was because this whole hug actually like screwed up a lot of the shots. No, but there's no living that through that. If you're trying to live here, you have to expect the push from the tracer or expect the push from somebody, right? So you need to turn around and camp the door with the flashbang, right? And if you like kill the tracer, that's a really good play. But you just die. So unfortunate.
Back in the saddle again.
Popping off. So yeah. Actually, let's watch your defense real quick.
3. Ready for
Hanzo,
2.
okay.
1. Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
See through the dragon's
So
eyes.
first things first, as Hanzo, you can just like climb this wall, throw a Sonic on the door, scout their comp a lot earlier, and then just like before a couple seconds before the doors open during the countdown, you just throw the Sonic and you leave, and that way you have like a full info on what comp they're actually rolling out on, right? As opposed to getting like slightly delayed info, right? So you want to play a more aggressive angle than this, in the sense that like your character is like fairly resilient to most things because you have leap. So you can just like play over here, right? And then keep the Sonic on here. And if you see people up here, you just hold this angle, right? And make sure you don't get hooked, right? You have leap to dodge, and you have like pocket from your supports, right? Your supports can heal you from here. And that way you can control the top, right? And if no one comes this way, then you can even potentially come up here and just like hard flank if like the enemy team is like, I don't know, just like pushing underneath. And this happens relatively often. Like good play from supports often involves getting your supports underneath, so they can't get shot. But if you're like up here, like you're just shooting them, right? It feels good. So like you want to control this flank, keep tabs on things, periodically check underneath to make sure no one's like doing something stupid, right? But this is kind of the area you want to play, not here. This is like you're later into the fight, when the card is pushed around and the whole team is like trying to fight in this area, and you're worried about getting pushed from the high ground side, right? So then this is when you play the side, right? But like early on, there's not a lot of tension to be split. You can control this by yourself, right? And just stand here and shoot. Ideally, one of your off tanks would also be here, but that's not the important part. Like you can also play this by yourself.
See that which you once see.
All right. Yeah. You gotta calm down, land, and then climb the wall. But the problem is now that you gave up the off angle, right? You didn't try to stick it out, right? And rely on your healing and your wall climb and your leap to like keep you safe. Now you're in a situation where you like let the off angle collapse, right? Like there's no off angling anymore. Ideally, this is actually probably a better spot for your Ashe in general. And then Hanzo plays a shorter angle. So in an ideal world, it would be the Ashe Mercy up here, the Hanzo over here, probably. But like regardless, like you can still hold that spot. You can just like duel the Tracer, right? Get healing, ask for healing from your BAP, just like start climbing walls, etc., etc. Do your usual, right? And the Tracer generally is fairly threatened. Eventually, she runs out of cooldowns, right? And it's like a relatively okay matchup, especially if you just consider they can drop, right, and then just come right back up, right, with a fully charged arrow, no less. But now like we have no actual map pressure, right? Like, now that you know the Tracer came from behind, right, and then that she left, this is the time to like take to retake the off angle, right? Start pushing out, start crossing, right? Check behind you for Tracer, right, and get up top. Quick note on aiming on Hanzo, by the way. Especially with Storm Rose, just take the time to aim each shot, right? I know it's like there's pressure to get as much DPS in as fast as you can, but like just make sure you hit shots, right? Whenever you play these Hanzo McCree type characters, hitting shots is way more important than the pace you hit the shots. And obviously, like hitting arrows alive.
See through the dragon's
Yeah, so we look at our position on the map, right? Everybody's in this area. It looks like Gabe is like pushing the off angle, right? But again, you want to expand the off angle. If you were up here, it would be way better, right? Yeah, like you see how you're flicking every shot, even on shots that don't need to be flicks, right? Right here, you feel pressure to hit the shot. Feel pressure to hit the shot fast, and you flick before her movement settles, right? And so you miss. And then you flick again, and which like doesn't make much sense because like she's scoping in, she's looking, and she's like not looking at you, right? And like you just make your own life really hard. Hitting one shot there, even if you don't kill her, is like a pretty big deal because it either forces the support to leave this Ashe and pocket her, right? Or for this Ana to hide and contribute nothing, or to nade herself, and that's a big cooldown, right? So again, like hitting shots matters, right? You just need to hit the shot. Don't worry so much about like hitting them fast.
Behind you.
Amplification matrix charging.
My power
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
One-time mechanics.
Damage boost engaged.
You definitely mess it up like very regularly.
Cover me.
see that which is
So, do you know which angle
unseen.
you need to control? I'll let you think about it for a couple seconds. Alright, so again, there's only a couple places they can come from. Over here, right? Top, and left, right? So, generally speaking, your Ashe wants to play like this angle. This is your standard angle, right? Or up here, right? So she wants to play like the more dominant position, right? And then you can just kind of like chill next to this door, right? And just like play behind the sign, right? Throw Sonics in there to make sure you don't get flanked, and then climb this wall to shoot arrows, right? And it's very safe. It's hard to push. And as long as like your Sonic is like in this general vicinity, you should generally catch someone going underneath as well. If you're not sure, right? If you're based on sound cues, you don't think there's anyone in tunnel, or you've checked tunnels, like you just walked in and like didn't see anyone, right? Then you can like either a hard flank, right? Just keep pushing around when they don't expect it, or like throw a Sonic down on like underneath you, and then just chill over here and shoot arrows on a hard off angle, right? But you do need to take a separate angle, and when that's high ground, not low ground. You can also potentially play on this side as well, right? If like your Ashe is playing a more like left side approach, right? So again, read what your Ashe is doing. Your Ashe is currently playing the high ground approach, right? So this angle doesn't make as much sense, so you prefer to play this angle, right?
Barrier in place.
So you do need to find time to cross. Crossing is good. You need to cross faster, so you don't get left on the bridge when the hit scan peaks, right? You need to cross so you can start using the sign as cover. That's really important. Fire by the Tracer, and so it's good to bail that as fast as you did, right? But you were forced to bail, and now you're in a situation where you can't like contribute, right? Like now, like you sort of take it like you again, like because you didn't rotate fast enough, and took a lot of pressure from the Ashe. Now you're in a situation where you can't hold the spot against the Ashe, right, or the Tracer, and now you and the Ashe and the are in the same angle, right? And this is what we want to avoid. If you see that, okay, well your Ashe died, so now this is your angle. Good job. Good job.
Through the dragon's eyes.
This is not your time.
What did you Sonic?
How about a
through the dragon's eyes.
Yeah, so the Sonic is okay, but especially if you know where the Ash is. I don't think you did, but like, you want to save the Sonic for like sniper battles, right? Either to like make sure you have permanent eyes on a Tracer, so if you know where the Tracer is, you can Sonic her, and just keep tabs on where she's going, or you just like Sonic for snipers, so to win sniper duels, right? And like Sonic is really strong, and that's what enabled that. This is why when Widow is super meta and like double sniper metas, it was very rarely Widow Ash, right? Unless you had like you literally couldn't play Hanzo, right? You ran Widow Hanzo most of the time. In this case, we're running Ash Mercy. It's the same thing, right? As Widow. Because like having Hanzo just like supports your Widow in so many areas, right? You just give her like perma walls and like on key targets and on the enemy snipers as well. So like again, like unless you're very sure where the Tracer is, be careful of just throwing a Sonic for like the chance of info, right? Because this is like a way more reliable Sonic on the sign. That's very low risk. You just check the Sonic at the sign, and now you have permanent like information on what this Ash is doing.
This is not your time. Heroes never die. Your leader is with us.
Take cover!
Do something!
Ah, why'd you Sonic that? Hey, just gotta have Sonic discipline.
Get in there, Bob!
Yeah. All right. So I think the key points for you, especially as McCree, are like not playing low ground, just like finding angles to be aggressive and like take off angles. And then as Hanzo, you need to maintain the integrity of the off angle. Right. You play high ground a lot, which is good, but you always return back to like center as opposed to like just playing your off angle out and seeing if you can hold it. Right. You'll learn pretty quickly which off angles you can hold, which ones you can't, versus like what, just by playing it and then dying a lot. But like you should try to contest off angles, and then if you lose the off angle, try to reestablish it either by going all the way around, right? So either like return to the off angle that you were just at as soon as they leave, right? Or like go in the other direction because you just got pushed in that direction, right? So if you get pushed out on right side, just go left and see if you can establish an off angle on that side. It depends on map geometry, obviously, but that's what you want to aim to do. Be as Hanzo, especially in sniper duels, like be really stingy with stingy, I guess, with sonic arrows. It's your way of like tilting the sniper duels. It can keep tabs on flankers as well, but again, you want to make sure you know like that's either that spot is really important to have information of, or you know where the flanker already is, and you're just keeping tabs on her, right? In this case, like you didn't know roughly where she was, you just knew from sound, and that Sonic also was not valuable to anyone except maybe you, right? So it's not valuable for your supports to like fight off the Tracer or like just know when the Tracer's about to go in. It was just valuable for you to know where the Tracer was, so that way you could go like maybe attempt a shot, right? And that's just not very value. And then your second Sonic was like on Bob. So yeah, baby your Sonic a bit. It's pretty important. With Hanzo and McCree, just generally, take your time with your shots. Hitting the shot is more important than hitting the shot fast. The only exception is sometimes in a duel with Tracer, you just need to snap off shots really quickly because she's like blinking all over the place, right? But again, if you can reliably hit that shot, like it's better than even if you take like, I don't know, a third of a second longer or like even a full second longer to hit that, to shoot maybe not a second, but you know, if you can reliably hit the shot slower, that's generally better, especially as Hanzo, and in a lot of scenarios as McCree. So yeah. Also practice your wall climbs. Yeah. If you have any questions about anything, please let me know. And I hope this was pretty helpful. When you finish watching, DM me what let's see, 5 + 4 is.